Aisha's hands trembled as she held the wedding sari her mother placed before her. "Please, just meet him once," her mother said softly, her voice lined with concern and pressure. But there was no real choice. Aisha, 22, a literature graduate who dreamed of love stories with soft beginnings and stolen glances, was now being married off in the name of security, family reputation, and her father's weakening health. She had no say, no chance, and no escape. She had never met the man before. Just a name, Rian Malhotra, 28, an architect from Delhi. Wealthy, settled, too perfect to question. But when she first laid eyes on him during their quiet engagement, something confused her. He was calm, controlled, eyes intense and unreadable. He barely spoke, but when he did, his voice was low, steady, and oddly comforting. What Aisha didn't know was that Rian had already fallen in love with her, months ago. He had first seen her at a wedding in Jaipur, not dressed to impress, not surrounded by attention. She was barefoot, chasing a little girl across the lawn, her dupatta flying behind her, laughter soft and real. It wasn't just beauty he saw, it was peace. And Rian, the man who lived in order and silence, felt something loud for the first time. He had asked around quietly, found out her name, her family, her values. Slowly and silently, he approached her father, not to buy his way in, but to earn the right to love her, if fate allowed. He didn't plan on her being forced. That wasn't love. But by the time he found out, the wedding was already arranged. And on the day of their marriage, when he saw the sadness in her eyes, it crushed the part of him that had once believed this story would begin with joy. The first few days were distant. Aisha avoided him, not out of hatred, but confusion. She wasn't angry, just disappointed by life. Rian didn't touch her. He gave her a separate room. Every morning, she woke to find her favorite tea placed outside her door. Her bookshelf slowly filled with new novels. And sometimes, when they crossed paths in the kitchen, he would say things like, "Don't skip meals, Aisha," and walk away. She began to notice the details, how he always stood a few feet away, never entering her space. How his eyes softened when he looked at her. How he never raised his voice, never asked for anything. Yet somehow, he was always there, in silence, in distance, in patience. One evening, during a storm, the lights went out. Aisha, afraid of darkness since childhood, sat on the floor in her room, hugging her knees. A knock. Rian stood there with 2 mugs of coffee. "I remember you don't like the dark," he said quietly. She hesitated, then let him in. They sat together in candlelight, the rain echoing outside. No forced conversation, just shared silence. "Why did you marry me?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Rian looked at her, the flicker of candlelight dancing in his eyes. "Because you were the first thing in years that made me feel something. I saw you once, and I couldn't forget. You didn't even notice me. But I saw peace in you, and I've lived in chaos all my life." Aisha's breath caught. Her heart didn't fully forgive him yet, but something inside her bent that night, softened. Days went by, and they slowly started sharing small moments, reading books, having coffee together, and sitting quietly on the balcony in the evenings. One day, their hands touched while reaching for the same pen. Aisha's heart skipped a beat. Rian quickly pulled his hand away, gently, as if he didn't want to make her uncomfortable. Then, one night, Aisha had a bad dream. Without thinking, she walked to his room. She wasn't sure why. "Can I stay here tonight?" she asked softly, looking down. Rian nodded right away. He didn't ask any questions. He slept on the couch and let her sleep on the bed. From across the room, She looked at him, tall, calm, and quietly strong. She had never met a man like him, someone who didn't try to take what wasn't offered. Rian was waiting for her to choose him, not forcing her to. A few weeks later, Aisha walked into Rian's room by herself, without fear, without pretending to be someone she wasn't. He was standing near the window. She quietly walked up behind him and gently wrapped her arms around his waist. Rian froze for a moment, surprised and unsure. "I don't know when it happened," she whispered against his back, "but now I don't feel like I was forced into this. I feel like I was chosen." Rian slowly turned to face her. Their eyes met, and this time, neither of them looked away. He kissed her forehead first, then her cheeks, and finally, her lips, slowly and gently, with so much care that it brought tears to her eyes. His hands held her carefully, like she was precious. Her sari slid off her shoulder, and his lips softly touched her skin, as if he was memorizing every part of her. When she whispered, yes, it wasn't just to him, it was to both of them, to the love they had found together. They were gentle with each other. His fingers followed the shape of her body with love, and she gasped softly as he kissed her deeply, as if he had waited for this moment forever. And in a way, he truly had. The next morning, Aisha woke up in Rian's arms. His hold was warm, strong, and safe, like she belonged there. She looked up at him and smiled softly. "Let's get up. You'll be late for work." Rian opened his eyes, still sleepy, and pulled her closer. "Just a few more minutes," he whispered, resting his chin on her head. He wrapped his arms tighter around her and gently cuddled her again, burying his face in her neck. Aisha laughed quietly, her heart full. "I didn't choose this marriage, Rian. But today, I choose you," she whispered. Rian lifted his face, kissed her forehead, and replied, "I chose you the day you didn't even know I existed." And just like that, in that warm morning light, they held each other, not as strangers, not as husband and wife by force, but as two souls who had finally fallen in love.